Hi everybody, this is Shawna Odette from the Flying Cat Academy. Welcome to lesson number 19. In this lesson, we will introduce the student to two more exceptions to the closed syllable rule, ing and ink. Let's set up the table. You'll need your top 160 sight word list, the sight word study method instruction sheet, the student card pack, some blank cards for introducing new words, a highlighter, some markers, and some pencils. For the short vowel drill, you'll have the teacher instruction sheet, the keyword pictures, and the keyword sentence. For the phonemic awareness drill, you'll have the instruction sheet for the teacher and the tiles for the student. Then we have the visual drill and the auditory drill instruction sheet, and the card pack on which the student is currently working, making sure that you're taking out the cards once they are mastered, and introducing new ones as they come up. The blending drill is gone because we are now working on the syllable card drill. And this is one for today, so you'll have to cut it out in advance. I like to mark the second syllable with a special color so it's visually different. And then we have the magnetic letter tile reading and spelling drills. For that one, you have the cookie sheet with the magnetic letter tiles arranged in a rainbow shape. We'll have the syllable pounding instruction sheet, the kinesthetic discovery sheet, which you probably won't be using today because we are introducing some new content. We like to keep that for review lessons. And then the sheets from today's lesson, the isolated words, the connected text, which is the story, and the connected text for writing, which is the sentences. You'll also need the blending drill. You can have this set up on the table, or else you can just use the video because I will lead you through it if you'd rather. And there are two blending drills to do today in the new content section of the lesson. You'll also need to have some sliders. You already made the one for all, and in addition, you will need two new ones for the other closed exceptions that we've covered, ank and ang. When you make a slider, you have the index card and you cut a hole in it. You write the closed syllable on the card, the exception to the closed syllable such as ang, and then you use single consonants first, and then you move into blends. I will include this in the lesson, so if you don't have time to make them today, that's okay, but it is best if you have them because it's good for the student to have the multisensory element. We'll start off with the sight word study method. Student, take out your card pack with the words on which you're currently working. You're going to read through each card. Afterwards, give the card pack to your teacher. Then it's your teacher's turn to read. When the teacher reads the words, you write them down. When you get a word read correctly or written correctly, you are going to put a check mark on your card. Afterwards, you and your teacher can have a discussion about which of those words are mastered. And if there are any words that are mastered, you can take them out of your card pack. This will create some space in the pack so that you can have space to add a new word. If you have time, you will use the sight word study method instruction sheet to introduce a new word. It's time for the short vowel drill, so take out your keyword pictures. Apple, ah. And you'll go through all the short vowel sounds, tracing the keyword pictures, and then underlining it and saying the sound ah, or eh, or I, or ah, or ah. You'll do that as many times as your teacher says is necessary, and then come back to me. Let's do the phonemic awareness drill. You'll need your colored tiles for this one. Your word is an. Can you repeat that word? Let's see, I might say there was an elephant. Make that word with colored tiles. And then tap it and underline it and say the whole word. Okay, you've got two tiles down for an, and I would like you to add a third tile to the front. B. Can you say that sound? Add b to the front of an. What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get ban? I will ban the book. No, I won't. If you did, that's right. Take the b and let's change it into a s. What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get san? Not a word on its own, but part of sand. Let's take a t and insert it right after the s in san. What would happen if you took a t and put it right after the s in san? Tap it and say it. Did you get stan? If you did, that's right. Now let's add a d to the end of stan. What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get stand? I will stand up. If you did, that's wonderful, because that's a toughie. There was a blend at the front, st, the st blend, and then the nd blend at the end. That was good stuff. So that's stand. Let's change the d at the end of stand. Can you find that? So you're touching the d. Let's change it into a k. What's your new word? Did you get stank? If you did, that's right. That's a good example of how it's so hard to make that apple sound when we have the NK after it, because you hear it in stand, but when you said stank, all of a sudden it feels almost impossible to keep that apple sound. So you can really understand why we would adapt it, why we would fool around with the apple sound to make it easier to say. So that's stank. What happens if you take the s away from stank? What are you left with? Tap it and say it. Did you get tank? If you did, that's right. Okay, we'll end there. Let's do the visual drill. For this one, you'll need your card pack. The teacher flashes the card and the student says the sound that the symbol makes. So you would say, ah, and then go on to the next card. Do this for about 6 to 8 cards, and then we'll go on to the auditory drill. Auditory drill, the teacher has the card pack. The teacher says, your sound is kt. Can you repeat that sound? Now I'd like you to write down the symbol for kt. And when you finish, I want you to underline it and say the sound again. Then the teacher reveals that it was kt, the blend CT. And you can check your work. Do that for 6 to 8 cards. Let's do the syllable card drill. Your teacher has it all ready for you on the table. You're going to read down the words in the left column, and then you'll read down the words in the right column. Then it's time to read nonsense words by reading across the rows. The fourth step is you can mix and match, so you can change around the words in the second column to make real words. These are compound words, so it's a real word on the left and a real word on the right, and when you put them together, it becomes a brand new, bigger word. Do that now. We're moving into the review section of the lesson, so let's do some syllable pounding. This is where you stretch out your arm, and every time you hear a syllable, you pound it out. Remember that a syllable is a vowel sound. So when I say a vowel sound, it forces my chin to drop. Drop. So in the word drop, my hand hit my chin once. Drop. That's the ah sound. So there is one syllable in drop. Pound it out right now for the word con. How many syllables do you hear in con? Okay. Did you say one? How about content? How many did you get that time? I got 2. How about habit? Pound it out. Did you say 2? If you did, that's right. Now how about hab? Can you say hab? Pound it out. There's one syllable in hab. It's that ah sound. How about inhabit? It's a big word. How many syllables? There are 3 syllables in inhabit. Let's move on. We've been talking about the closed syllable exceptions. And we've grown to trust and love our closed syllable, but we do have to say that sometimes there are combinations of letters that can mess around with those short vowel sounds of apple, Eddie, itchy, olive, and up. And we can predict this because there's only a few patterns that do this. So in this word, it's just a normal closed syllable. So how would you read it? There's no exception here. Tap it and say it. Did you get al? If you did, that's right. It's making the apple and the ul sound. Everything is good. You know, and if I add a B on the front, doesn't change. So just, it's not a real word, but just read it. Tap it and say it just with the apple sound. Did you get bal? If you did, that's right. But when I add a second L, I have this ALL combination. And over time, we started saying this incorrectly because it was easier to say the ah sound. So this became ball. Can you say that? Ball. There are certain other exceptions that we've actually looked at, two more. So I'll start with a nice closed syllable that's going to be trustworthy and say its nice apple sound. What's that word? Did you say ban? If you did, that's right. But when I put a G, and we have this ANG combo, I can't trust this one, it's not apple anymore. We say ang. So this would be b plus ang, bang. Can you say that? Bang. Now let's take the G off and we'll put it back into that normal syllable. Ban. Hear the difference? Ban. And now put the G on and say bang. The same ang kind of sound happens when we add a K. So our ban becomes bank. Can you say that? So let's say ban first and then we'll change it into bank. Ban and bank. Let's review those three closed syllable exception sounds by doing our sliders. Teacher, if you have the sliders prepared, then you can have the student put the slider in their own hand and move the sounds up and read them as you go. And if not, then I'll have them on the screen and you can do it with me. Okay, student, we're going to learn about some new exceptions today. We're going to start off with a closed syllable that you can trust. So this is just a normal closed syllable. Can you tap it and say it? Did you say pin? If you did, that's right. What sound does the vowel make in pin? It's that itchy sound, isn't it? But when I add a G to pin, something strange happens. It stops being the nice itchy sound. ING makes ing. So what would this word be if you had p plus ing? Ping. So let's practice that ing sound by doing a blend. We'll do a blending drill. Teacher, if you have it set up on the table, then that's great. But otherwise, you can just keep playing the video and I will do it for you. Let's go back to the closed syllable that we can trust. How would you read this word? Did you say pin? You are correct. The vowel sound in pin is I, as in itchy. But when we add that G, it stops being p-ing. It changes slightly. It becomes ing. So this is ping. The same thing happens when we add a K. So pin, that itchy sound, changes a little bit. This is ink, pink. Can you say ink? So let's say pin, and then we're going to change it into pink. Do you feel the difference? Do you hear it? Let's practice that ink sound. So put your hands on your throat and say pin first. Pin. The lips really go back to that one. Pin. Now let's look at pink. 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 Pin. Pink. Okay, to practice the ink sound, let's do a blending drill. And once again, teacher, if you have it prepared, the student can do it on the table. Otherwise, they can do it through the video with me. Let's move on to the magnetic letter child drill. Student, I'm going to tell you that your sound is S. Can you repeat that sound? Now find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. The second sound is ing. And there's multiple letters that make up that sound, ing. We've been working on it today. Find the tiles that make ing and pull them to the middle. And then tap it and say it. Underline it and say the whole word. Did you get sing? If you did, that's right. Put the tiles back and let's try again. Let's see. Your sound is T. Can you repeat that sound? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. The next sound is ank. Can you repeat that? Ank. Find the correct tiles for ank and pull it to the middle. Tap it and say it, and then underline it and say the whole word. Did you get tank? If you did, that's right. Teacher, you're checking the time, and if there's time, you could introduce a third one using the magnetic letter child drill. Otherwise, move on to the isolated word list, and then you'll read the story with the student. If the student reads the story completely on their own, that's great. Otherwise, you could read one line and the student can read the other line. You're just keeping an eye on the time and the student's ability level. We're moving into the writing section now. We'll start with the magnetic letter tile drill for writing. Student, I'm going to tell you that your word is wink. Can you repeat that word? Wink. Can you use it in a sentence? I will wink at my son. Okay. What's the first sound that you hear in wink? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. Now, what's the second sound in wink? It's a unit of sound that we've been working on, like one of those closed syllable exceptions. Find the right tiles and pull them to the middle. Then tap it and say it. Did you get W-I-N-K? If you did, that's right. Put your tiles back and we'll get ready for the next word. Your word is hall. Can you repeat that word? Now use it in a sentence. I might say, I ran down the hall. Okay, what's the first sound that you hear in the word hall? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. And what's the second sound in hall? It's one of those exceptions, so it's going to require multiple letters. Pull the correct tiles down and then tap it and say it. Did you get H-A-L-L? If you did, that's right. Teacher, you can use a third or fourth word if you have time. And otherwise, let's move on to tracing and finger tapping. We'll start off with some tapping. So student, I'm going to tell you a word. And when you hear the word, so let's say it was hall, you would go, and then all would be all one. Maybe if you wanted to symbolize that there's 3 letters in that sound, you could even go like this with 3. So you can have your own system for this, but we want that unit of sound to be all one. So h and all. Okay, once you have tapped it out, then on lined paper with your pencil, you can write down the letters, spell the word. So your word is, let's do wing. Can you tap that one out? Okay, tap it out and say the sounds as you tap them, and then write the word down. Okay, teacher checks the work. And for the next one, you can trace on your body. So trace and say the sounds for ring. Okay, I might do it on my hand. Okay, and then you can write it down. For the third word, you can decide if you want to tap it out or if you want to trace it on your body. And your third word is mink. A mink coat used to be something that was fashionable, but now very few people wear mink coats. Mink. Okay. And then we're moving into the sentence portion, so we're almost done. Your teacher will read the 3 sentences that are provided, and student, you can choose 2 of those sentences to write. When you finish a sentence, I want you to use chops to check your work. Let's do a quick review before you go. We've been talking about exceptions to the closed syllable rule. Today we used pin as an example of a closed syllable that we can trust. But when we add either a G or a K, it stops being that nice itchy sound and it gets a little trapped in our throat. So this would be ping. Can you say that? Ping. And that ing is the same in this exception, which is ink, which is ink. So that word pin changes to pink. Can you say pink? Good job. So for the most part, we truly can trust closed syllables. There's just a few exceptions that we have to learn about. This has been Shawna Odette from the Flying Cat Academy. You have finished lesson 19.